today I'm going to tell you guys the exact NBA prospect that I want on my Atlanta Hawks. And before I tell you who that prospect is, I want to tell you guys to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share, and tell a friend, tell a family member, tell whoever to support my channel. And as I stated in the intro, there is a NBA prospect that I've been looking at all year that I am begging and praying for the Atlanta Hawks to get, for them to end up with this dude. And the guy that I'm talking about is one Mr. AJ Dybantsa of BYU. I want him. I can't tell you guys how badly I want AJ Dybantsa on the Atlanta Hawks. And I know it's good. Look, man, a lot of these teams in the NBA right now are tanking. They're tanking. They're losing games to get the lottery odds to be as high as possible so they can take players like AJ Dybantsa. And there's Cam Boozer of Duke, and there's Darren Peterson of Kansas, and Caleb Wilson of North Carolina, and all of these nice little prospects. But the player that has stood out to me the most, and the guy that I want on the Atlanta Hawks, and look, man, but those of y'all that don't know already, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Atlanta Hawks own the New Orleans Pelicans pick. And so the Pelicans right now, they have a bottom 5 record in the league, which means the Hawks are right there. The opportunity for the Atlanta Hawks to end up with AJ Dybantsa is right there. And I want that man on the Atlanta Hawks so badly. I can't tell you guys how badly I want AJ Dybantsa on the Atlanta Hawks. I want him. I want him badly. I want him desperately. I've been salivating at the thought of AJ Dybantsa on the Atlanta Hawks. And I'm going to tell you guys. I don't know if you guys caught that game last night between BYU and Iowa State. But I'm here to tell y'all, man, AJ Dybantsa put on an absolute clinic on Iowa State. Iowa State is one of the best defensive teams in the country. I saw Iowa State just last weekend kind of do a number on Darren Peterson, kind of held him in check. And AJ Dybantsa a week later just said, no. I'm that dude. I'm AJ Dybantsa. You ain't going to do what y'all did to Darren Peterson last week to me. No sorry, buddy. AJ Dybantsa went to work, and that dude was straight cooking. And when I'm talking about cooking, I'm talking about cooking bacon. Got some bacon right here. AJ Dybantsa was cooking up some bacon. He was cooking up some pancakes. We got pancakes on him, baby. He was cooking them all good. Right? We got some syrup. Can't forget about the syrup. We got to put some syrup on these pancakes. You know, AJ Dybantsa was cooking it all on Iowa State over the weekend. And last but not least, we got some eggs. We can't forget about the eggs, man. We got some eggs and all that. AJ Dybantsa was cooking it all against Iowa State. And I can't forget about the shredded cheese. I don't got that with me, but we had to put some shredded cheese on them eggs as well. You know, scrambled well with cheese, man. AJ Dybantsa was cooking it all against Iowa State over the weekend. And boy, when I tell y'all, man, that was a statement game from AJ Dybantsa. He was cooking against that team to the tune of 29 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists. The man almost had a triple-double, an absolute triple-double against Iowa State. And to me, in my eyes, I think as of this moment, AJ Dybantsa has the lead for being the number 1 pick in the 2026 NBA draft. And look, man, that's been my guy. AJ Dybantsa has been my guy throughout this entire season. To me, I get it. There are a lot of fans that like Cam Boozer, and Cam Boozer I've come around on for sure. He's a very good player. Duke, with their win over Michigan State. Cam Booth had 18 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, had a near triple-double against the best team in the country in Michigan. So you got to give Cam Booth his due. And Darren Peterson is dealing with some of these injury issues. He's low managing. He's been in and out of the games. And so there's a little bit of a question mark with Darren Peterson and some of his injury situations. But when you look at AJ Dybantsa and what separates him from the pack, it's the consistency. It's the reliability. It's the guy that you can count on game in, game out. And when you look at the skill set of an AJ Dybantsa, this is a guy that's 6'9.5", 6'10", 215 pounds, with his ball handling skills, with the fluidity that this dude moves with on the basketball court. This dude is 6'9.5", 6'10", and he moves like a guard, for crying out loud, man. This is a dude right now leading the country in scoring, averaging 25 points a game, 7 rebounds, 4 assists on 54% shooting. This is AJ Dybantsa, and he's shooting 36% from 3. This guy is doing it all. And as an Atlanta Hawk fan, oh my God, I want this dude on the Atlanta Hawks so badly. I beg of you, Adam Silver. Adam Silver. I want to send you a message to Mr. Adam Silver. I don't ask for much, Adam Silver, but please, can you do my team right, please? Can you do me right for the Atlanta Hawks to win the lottery, or at minimum get top 2? Either way, I want the Atlanta Hawks to be in a position to draft this dude, AJ Dybantsa, because AJ Dybantsa on the Atlanta Hawks would be magic. It would be a show. It would be the best thing that ever happened to the Atlanta Hawks in their history if they get that man AJ Dybantsa on the Atlanta Hawks. Oh, my Lord heavens. I need it so badly. And when I look at AJ Dybantsa, man, look, man, I know what I mean. I've watched about every BYU game. And I just can't get enough of AJ Dybantsa. The skill set, his ability, he can do whatever. He can do everything at 6'10". This guy can handle the ball. This guy can get to his mid-range shot. He can get to the basket. He can post up, shoot threes off the dribble, off the catch. And one of the things he's been doing at BYU, he's getting better as a playmaker. This was one of his weaknesses that people were branding about, this dude wasn't passing the ball. Well, guess what? Again, against one of the best defensive teams in the nation, this dude had 9 assists. He's throwing lobs to his big man. When he's drawing and kicking, when teams are doubling teaming him, he's finding an open man, kicking the ball out to the open shooters. He's finding cutters. AJ Dybantsa is running the show for BYU, and his mid-range game is butter. It's just silky smooth money. When you talk about this dude's ability to get to his mid-range shot, it's so pure when you watch this dude shoot a mid-range shot and how he just dribbles and just glides across the court. AJ Dybantsa is a rare breed, man. He's an absolute rare breed of a basketball player. And this dude is 19 years old. And what I also love about AJ Dybantsa, he cares about basketball. He ain't about them distractions. He ain't about the drama. All he wants to do is hoop. That's all he wants to do. He wants to hoop. As a matter of fact, after the game, he said to the media that if he could play 40 minutes, he'll play 40 minutes. And guess what he did last night against Iowa State? He played 40 minutes. Yeah, 29, 10, and 9 in 40 minutes a game of action. That's what AJ Dybantsa did. And like I said before, over the course of the season, this dude is averaging 25 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists. That's what he did against Iowa State. And he can do that. He does that pretty much every game because AJ Dybantsa is one of them ones. And as it pertains to the Atlanta Hawks, look, man, I've been through a lot as an Atlanta Hawk fan. And not just as an Atlanta Hawk fan, but as an Atlanta sports fan. I've been through a lot of my life rooting for these Atlanta sports teams. Okay? As an Atlanta Falcon fan, I had to deal with my team blowing a 28-3 Super Bowl lead. I had to deal with that. I had to deal with that misery. I had to deal with the fact that my team, years prior, was in the NFC Championship game and they blew a 17-point lead in the second half. I had to deal with that. I had to deal with Michael Vick getting arrested for dogfighting. I had to deal with that. I also had to deal with, in 1998, when the Atlanta Falcons went to their first Super Bowl, the man of the year, Eugene Robinson, was arrested for soliciting a prostitute. Google it, young people. It actually happened. So I had to deal with all of that. And by the way, the Atlanta Falcons currently have 8 straight losing seasons. And that's just the Atlanta Falcons. And as an Atlanta Hawk fan, I've had to deal with my team passing up on Chris Paul to take Marvin Williams. That my team passed up on Chris Paul, who recently retired just last week, who's going to be in the Hall of Fame, who's one of the greatest point guards of all time. My team passed that up for Marvin freaking Williams. I have to deal with that. My team also took, my Atlanta Hawks also took Sheldon Williams, top 5 in the draft. A month prior, after the lottery, it was reported they were going to take Sheldon Williams. Sheldon Williams, who everyone knew was not going to be good in the NBA. And the Hawks took him, Sheldon Williams. I had to deal with that. My team in 2007 was 1 pick away from Kevin Durant. 1 pick away from Kevin Durant. And my team took Al Horford. Now, I love Al Horford. He's one of my favorite Atlanta Hawks players of all time. And so the Hawks took him 3rd, and that ended up being a great pick. But the Hawks was a pick away from Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant on the Atlanta Hawks would have been special. And so I've had to deal with a lot as an Atlanta Hawks fan. I've had to deal with my team for most of my life being mediocre, being stuck in the middle, being mid. I've had to deal with my team racing away to Trae Young era because of bad decisions like trading for DeJounte Murray. My team, my Hawks have to deal with that. And so as an Atlanta sports fan, I've had to deal with a lot in my life. A lot. My team in 2024 won the lottery in the worst draft possible, in which my team took Zachary Richeche, who I talked about in the last episode when I'm talking about how much of a disappointment he's been. But the Atlanta Hawks took him number 1. And so I've had to deal with a lot as an Atlanta Hawk, as an Atlanta sports fan, with the Hawks and the Falcons. And so I say that to say, is Adam Silver, please, I beg of you. I'm serious about this. I'm serious. I'm watching this dude AJ Dybantsa in college, and I'm begging you. I want that. Do me right. Do me right. Do my Atlanta Hawks right. Do me right as an Atlanta Hawk fan. I'm begging you. I want that top 2. I want a top 2 pick in this year's draft. And also, but look, man, I want to give thanks to the New Orleans Pelicans and Joe Dumars for handing the Atlanta Hawks a miracle by trading that pick for Derek Queen, for my Hawks to actually have a position to take a guy like AJ Dybantsa, because it's a miracle that my Atlanta Hawks are actually in this position, that to the point that they actually have a real chance of ending up with AJ Dybantsa. And I'm here to tell y'all, if the Atlanta Hawks end up with AJ Dybantsa, I'm going to send Joe Dumars and the New Orleans Pelicans organization a big old thank you letter when it happens. And I'm also here to say, if the Atlanta Hawks end up with AJ Dybantsa, then the people that work for the Atlanta Hawks should absolutely build a statue in front of State Farm Arena of Joe Dumars wearing a Pistons jersey or whatever the case is. Because I'm here to tell y'all, AJ Dybantsa on the Atlanta Hawks would be unreal. And not just on the basketball court, but off the court as well. AJ Dybantsa on the Atlanta Hawks would change lives. It would change this franchise forever if AJ Dybantsa is on the Atlanta Hawks. Could you imagine the city being crazy for AJ Dybantsa in the Atlanta Hawks uniform? This dude, AJ Dybantsa, has charisma. He has personality. He has that care factor on and off the court. You watch this dude talk, And this dude is full of personality. This dude he gets it. He's charismatic. He's lovable. And most importantly, he's committed to being great. He's committed to basketball. He's committed to doing the work, whatever it takes to be great. And as an Atlanta Hawks fan, that's what I want. That's what I need. You put AJ Dybantsa on the Atlanta Hawks would be like what the Atlanta Hawks fans wished they would have been dreaming about getting Anthony Edwards. AJ Dybantsa would be what Hawk fans have been dreaming of with Anthony Edwards. It would change everything if the Atlanta Hawks ended with AJ Dybantsa. And AJ Dybantsa with Jalen Johnson, could you imagine that? AJ Dybantsa with Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson and AJ Dybantsa on the same team. AJ Dybantsa and Jalen Johnson on the same team would be what Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill was supposed to be when they were on the Orlando Magic. Let me repeat that. If AJ Dybantsa and Jalen Johnson ended up on the same team, it would be what Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill was supposed to be in Orlando. That's how dynamic of a duo Jalen Johnson and AJ Dybantsa would be. It would be scary hours for the NBA. It would be. AJ Dybantsa and Jalen Johnson on the same team, and the Atlanta Hawks could actually win a championship at some point over the next 5 years. AJ Dybantsa and Jalen Johnson on the same team on the Atlanta Hawks, and the Atlanta Hawks could win a championship at some point over the next 5 years. It could absolutely happen. It would change everything for this franchise. It would change everything. AJ Dybantsa, Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Onyeka Okongwu, and maybe the Hawks can upgrade at center. That's a really good core. That's a really good young tandem to build around. You put AJ Dybantsa with Jalen Johnson on the Atlanta Hawks, and oh my Lord heavens, I will be going crazy. And I'm probably going crazy right now. I'm sure you guys think I'm going crazy, listening to me talk about this. But I can't help myself but fantasize at the possibility of AJ Dybantsa on the Atlanta Hawks. I can't tell you guys. I want this thing to happen so badly. As an Atlanta sports fan, I've been dealing with a lot, man. I've been dealing with a lot. I've dealt with it. I've been dealing with a lot of pain and heartaches when it comes to these Atlanta sports teams. The Hawks, the Falcons, even the Braves. The Braves, they won their World Series in 2021 for sure. But we ain't gonna act like the Braves haven't been choking in the playoffs for most of my lifetime. They've been doing a lot of choking, letting me down as an Atlanta sports fan. And so I'm just here to tell y'all, man. AJ Dybantsa on the Atlanta Hawks, it would change everything. It would. AJ Dybantsa on the Atlanta Hawks, if the Hawks ended up drafting him with a top pick in the draft, it would be the most significant transaction in the history of their franchise. Absolutely. It would be. I love Trae Young. Love Trae Young. He had a very good 7 years with the Atlanta Hawks. AJ Dybantsa would be that times 1,000 if the Atlanta Hawks end up with AJ Dybantsa. AJ Dybantsa is a generational talent. Generational ball player. And I'm telling y'all, man, you put that man AJ Dybantsa with Jalen Johnson, and oh my goodness, it would be crazy. It would be unbelievable. And Atlanta sports fans listening to this episode should be praying and rooting for it badly to happen. Look, man. I like Cam Boozer. I know there's some Hawk fans that want Cam Boozer. But here's the thing with Cam Boozer. Is he really that good of a fit with Jalen Johnson? I'm not saying those two can't work, but it's a little bit of overlap in my opinion. If you're pairing Cam Boozer with Jalen Johnson, Like, it's just kind of is because they're both power forwards. They both kind of play similar in style of play. And so when I look at the Atlanta Hawks, to me, when I look at the Hawks, there's two things that I think this team needs in order for them to get to the next level. There's two issues with this team that they need long term. Number one is they need a center. They need a rebounder and a rim protector. At least somebody that can complement Onyeka Okongwu when Onyeka sits. And so they need a rim protector and someone that can grab some rebounds. That's the number one need. That's the number one thing that they need. But the other need for this team is they need a scorer, man. They need somebody. They need a perimeter scorer who can score in the half court and somebody that can take some pressure off Jalen Johnson. The Hawks badly need a scorer, ideally with some size. Like, I think we can all agree that we don't want the small, 6-foot point guard that's defensively challenged, which is why they got rid of Trae Young. But if the Hawks can just get a perimeter scorer, ideally with some size, that can get a bucket in a half court when the play breaks down, somebody like that, somebody that can take some pressure off Jalen Johnson, and the ideal guy in this draft is Dybantsa. Dybantsa, if the Atlanta Hawks get him, he will solve every need for this team as far as that score that can take pressure off Jalen Johnson. It would be a match made in heaven. Dybantsa and Jalen Johnson together would be like peanut butter and jelly. It would be like cheese and eggs, pancakes and syrup. I mean, it would be like grits and butter. I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, Dybantsa and Jalen Johnson would be dynamic and unstoppable. And at some point, it would be the best duo in the Eastern Conference. I'm just saying. Like, you put Dybantsa with Jalen Johnson on the same team, man, the Atlanta Hawks will be championship contenders soon. And that's just the facts. And so, look, man, my feelings on Dybantsa are well and clear. I want that man on the Atlanta Hawks. And my message for Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, I'm begging, do me right. Do me right. I've been through a lot as an Atlanta Hawk fan. And as an Atlanta sports fan, I've been through a lot. I've been through a lot of disappointment and heartache. You can cure it if you position my Atlanta Hawks and you allow my team to win the lottery, and you let and my Atlanta Hawks can end up with that man Dybantsa. I need that dude on the Atlanta Hawks, man. I'm begging. That dude right there is special. That dude right there, Dybantsa, that's a bad man. It's a bad somebody. And that dude right there is the best player in the draft. And if the Atlanta Hawks somehow end up with Dybantsa, oh my Lord, y'all better watch out, NBA. And that's all I have for this. And that's all I have for this episode. And I'll be back later. Talk soon. Peace.